Welcome, everybody. It's Dr. James Beckett here with Rich Klein, Sports Card Insights, hypothetical dollar box battle. Rich and I find ourselves at the dollar boxes side by side sometimes, and there'll be another person there, or two or three or five. So it can be a lot of kibitzing and a lot of quickly going through cards. So we're going to talk about what that feels like and how Rich has an advantage in some ways that he presses. I have an advantage in some ways that I press. And it's not just one lane. There's many lanes within the dollar box community. So thanks, sponsors: Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Topps, Upper Deck, and Panini. So Rich, I've had so many times where you went through the dollar box first or I went through first, and I just think there's 10% overlap in what we're looking. Am I underestimating that?
Maybe 15, but no, there's really not. You're looking for a different world than I'm looking for.
Exactly.
And what I'm looking for a lot of times are rookie cards of people or older cards that may be serial numbered, cards 80s, 60s, 50s. I mean, you would buy them too, especially if you saw them, but you don't always buy what I'll buy in that. And the reason is I have more familiarity with them. So I don't have to try to think about, okay, I don't know enough about 2023 football to know what Panini products are good and all that. And you spend more time in football, so you would do a much better job with most modern football than I would. But I think if I hit the 90s, 80s, 70s, and the 4 and a smattering of other cards, I do okay. I would do better knowing some of the weird things. I probably know more about heritage and some of the quirks than you do too. You would get most of them, but I probably know a little more.
I agree, but again, this is one of the first differences, that you're recognizing things by familiarity, and I'm almost going the other way of picking out things that I don't have familiarity. Now, it has to have some kind of an attribute. It has to be an insert that I rarely see, or a color variation, or something like that, an obscure player, some kind of a short print that's more evident to me because I lack the familiarity. I think you're really good at going through, and when you see something, you know what you're looking for, and you see it and you pull it. I don't know what I'm looking for. And when I see something, then I pull it.
One thing you and I are very similar on is that if you've never seen it before, it's worth at least digging in a little.
Yes.
That was always something we used when we were buying book cards.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before. This set is $10. Let me just buy it for $10. Granted, at a national, there would be certain vendors that would put together, depending who got there first, you or I, and they would just say, okay, here's sets you don't have. Usually, maybe with one or two exceptions, it was like, okay, no, we don't have anything except for this one set. I'll buy it. If you've got a home for that one set, you want to keep it, that's okay. But those were things I could look at a show and say, I've never seen that before. That takes an eye to understand what you've never seen before. It's a different type of eye.
I know, but it's not just the eye. You have to have the memory, or to be able to figure out, do I already have this? Do I need this? What's it really worth? And I've been bringing my iPad to the shows, but a number of shows I've never pulled it out to look up something. And I don't think you're pulling out any device.
I don't bring anything. When I was working for you at the National or any show, I would bring the almanac just to make sure, okay, we have this or we don't have that. So I did bring the almanac with me, heavy as it was, just to double check certain things. Nowadays, I just go and buy stuff. And I just look and say, okay, this is a good card. Like the best card I picked up at the last show, and it was in better shape than I thought it was when I looked at it. This was in a value box. It was a 63 top Steve Dalkowski semi-high card. A very tough card.
Admit it.
He's a legendary pitcher.
But you didn't have to look at the back of the card. I
didn't have to look at the back of the card.
The front of the card, and you knew, I don't usually see this. This must be a high number or a next to last series, and it is.
And I knew the card. I knew the number, actually. I didn't even have to look. I just said, that's Dalkowski. I'm buying the card for, it was too cheap for the price. But it was like, okay, I'm buying the card. I thought it was VGX. It's probably closer to X-Mint, but irrelevant on that. At what I paid for it, the VGX would have been perfectly fine too. But I knew to buy that card without even asking for a discount on the global price. I think he may have knocked 10% off or something. I think it may have been $22, and he said, give me 20. And for what I pulled out, it was fine. And there was also a 61 All-Star Nellie Fox in the group.
Rich, you're killing me. I absolutely would have pulled those.
Yes.
Gotten there first. And that's an example of our overlap. But those are unusual finds for you. And good.
Yeah, no, those were the two best cards I picked up at the last house.
We're not losing money doing this, but to spend an hour at a dollar box working it and going through it, is that pure enjoyment for you, or is there any aspect you think this is work, or are you just cruising through it, or you just want to get up and go somewhere else after an hour?
We used to call it Zen and the art of the dime box back in the day. You get into a zone and you just say, I'm having fun. You're looking at cards. There's no pressure. You say, okay, I know these cards are worth $1 each. And you know my policy. I don't care if they don't give me a discount. I want to pull stuff in a dollar box that I would pay $1 for. And that way, if they say 24 cards, $24, fine, here you go.
Okay. We worked together, but I signed your paychecks for a long time.
Yes.
So it's not a big shocker that my budget for cards is higher than yours.
Right.
So do you pull to an amount? Because I just pull, I'm not going to run out of money necessarily, but do you have a budget? Because I have a budget,
but I bring a little extra, usually over my budget. But there have been times I've tapped out the first day of the Dallas Card Show. I'll have a budget of X dollars. There was one time I did so well buying older cards. I spent the rest of the show just hanging out and chatting with my friends because I tapped out on Thursday night.
Do you think most people that work the dollar boxes have a limit for the show? Or are they more like me where I don't have a limit? I'm just enjoying as long as it's good pickings, I'll hang out.
I think they're somewhere in between you and me. What I mean by that is they may not have an unlimited budget, but they probably have enough to go through whatever discount box it is and feel comfortable not having to push back anything.
And the couple that always works the back of the Palmer's booth, they bring their notebooks.
They're trying to finish sets.
That seems like a tough way to go through a dollar box. There are runs of organization within a lot of these people that do it, but I just think that'd be hard. And they're doing it husband, wife, I think. I guess they're talking to each other and they mark them off as they get them.
I think I see less of them because I think now there are some pretty good shows in San Antonio where they're from. So they're able to hit local shows and local stores now where they weren't able to do that a couple of years ago.
How frustrated are you, which I'm not frustrated, if I look at a dollar box and it's multi-sport? And even some non-sport or some UFC or something in there, is that a minor nuisance? You would prefer to just do baseball? Or
I usually just prefer the baseball boxes, but if a card pops in that's not baseball and it's something, oh, that's fine. I'll just take that. And sometimes I wonder if people stick certain cards like that in boxes to hide, okay, I'll put these 10 football cards in the baseball cards and I'll come back for that box when I have some more cash in a couple hours. I'll go to the ATM and I'll come back and I'll pull the cards. And it makes you wonder whether anybody does something like that or whether they just didn't put the cards back correctly.
Okay, true confession. Okay, where did you find the cards? I'm not trying to get cards from you. Where did you find the cards? Were they in the front of the box, the middle of the box, the back?
Middle of the box.
Okay, that was not me then.
Okay.
Because when I do that, which I rarely do that, but I have done that, I put them at the back of the box.
I'll start looking at them.
Hoping that no one will make it all the way back. I'll start the first row of the box. And if I only pull one or two cards from that row, I'm not going to just walk up and, hey, here's 2 cards. But I got 2 cards out of 800 in a triple shoe, let's say. I'll just put those 2 at the back of that first row, kind of mark that I went through the first row, and maybe go look at another table. I'll go move for something that's better pickings. Because 2 out of a row, I basically want to pull 100 cards an hour.
You and I at this point both know which tables we're going to hit. Every once in a while, there's one that'll pop in that I don't know. But I know which tables I'm going to at the show. You know which tables you're going to at the show. We overlap a little on that. And if I just stay with the ones I normally go to, I feel much better. What was funny was I had a nice chat with Jimmy Fisher at the last show. And Jimmy started pulling cards. And I go, you're pulling them for Shane? And finally said, yeah, I'm pulling these for Shane. Shane will go through boxes and go through the boxes at one price point. And then he'll make a deal several days later into the show when it's been picked over. Okay, now this price point, I'll pull out more. And it's a lower price point, and that's fine because other people have had the chance then. And then he's basically, I don't want to say leftovers, but he's going through a group that's already been picked through.
Okay, so Shane could be our third guy, and sometimes he is the third guy there, and he definitely picks different from you and different from me. We could each have very different things. I know what he picks. I know what you pick. I know what I pick, and I think each of us know what the other picks.
Yes, he picks by name. That is his primary thing.
By name, right. Anyway. he expressly does something that's not what I do. It bugs me a lot to go through a box twice. So if he's able to do that, he's a better man than I am. So what I do with that in mind, and I don't know if dealers would like this, but again, I generally have a relationship. But if I'm going through a dollar box and they have maybe a quarter box and a dollar box, if I go through the dollar box, I, like you, will pull out anything that I'm willing to pay $1. I'm hoping to get a discount, and generally I'll have a discount arranged, but I'm going to pull out the ones. But unlike Shane, I will pull out the first pass through. I'll pull out the cards that I would have wanted on Sunday afternoon when he goes to his deepest discount. This could be Friday, or generally it's Saturday. I go up Saturday and say, here's the dollar box cards I picked. And here's some that are in the dollar box that I really think ought to be in the quarter box. And it's always a smaller stack. I said, I'm not going to buy them for $1. I'll buy them for whatever your lowest price is on Sunday afternoon. But you can look at them and see there's nothing special in there. So I hate going through it the second time, Rich.
Usually I make one pass through for me. The only place I'll ever make passes through is like in the National with Symbols Club, where they add stuff each day.
But you don't mark the boxes?
I don't mark the boxes.
You could mark them a different way than I mark them.
Then I'll start looking at, okay, I did this box. I don't need to do this one again.
I think I'm the exception, because most people look in the dollar boxes for a while and then go take a walk. Once I get started, I mark each box, and I might have to go to the bathroom, but I'm there and I'm not ink marking them, Sharpie, but I'm marking them very lightly. It's erasable. My problem is that people transfer boxes, or if they add stuff to the box I already went through. That would bug me, but it's a free world. I can't gripe.
It was funny, at the table you were hanging out at Saturday, and I came visited you. We started doing this guy's business for him. People were handing us money, and I was just it was hilarious.
I wonder if I was taking in more money than I was spending. Now,
I'm sure you were.
I was paying it forward. I was giving it back to him. But the guy, somebody came up and said, I got 22 cards. And I said, okay, $20. And he said, thank you. I said, okay. And you took it over to Jeff. But an hour before that, a guy came up and said, here's $20 for my 20 cards. I thought, what am I going to say? Hey, how about 18? No, he gave me a $20 bill. I said, thank you. Thank you for your business.
One time at Investibilia, my buddy Ryan, who is RJ Dukes up in McKinney, he had set up, and he had to go get his son at the front because his wife didn't want to pay the $10 to park since he was just dropping off their son. Rich watched the table, and it's not like Investibilia is like the Dallas Card Show. It's a fun show, but it's not as crowded. I went, and he had some box for $80 that somebody wanted. And I said, I don't have any change. If you got $80 in cash, I'll take it for you. And I'll just hold it for him. And yeah, he had $80 in cash, and there it is. He goes, okay, you've done more business for me right now than I've done for me.
Okay. Hypothetical for you. 1,000 cards in a dollar box. Let's say it's a double shoe, and you're going to go through it, and every card is penny sleeved and right side up. My guess is, as long as the penny sleeves don't get sticky, you could go through that really pretty fast. And let's say they're all baseball. So you just optimally go through it. But what if every other card is upside down? That slows
That
me
happens.
a lot.
That happens in some sets, by the way. The cards were cut.
I know. So I'm just saying that's a big negative. And also, I'm wondering if, because you've got some amazing skills, but if you were forced to go through a dollar box looking only at the backs of the cards, wouldn't that slow you up a lot?
A little. It depends on the years. If it's vintage, no. If it's modern, it would slow me up a ton.
Most of it's modern. I guess we're just getting into things that are too much detail for some of the people, but about 10% of the cards I flip over. I'm looking through and I'm thinking, I'm not sure. And then I'll flip it over to see, like you said, Steve Alkowski here, it's the number or something on the back that's a variation, and that slows me down too, to look on the back of the card. Because if you have to look at the front, I don't want to grade every card. I just want to go through and see if I like it or not. And I want to be able to very quickly think, if it's got a subtle shade of a color that's different than the regular thing, sometimes I think maybe it's serial numbered. I'll look on the back. And maybe it's not serial numbered, but it is a tougher. Tops and Panini both have some subtle variations that are just different skins or colors.
When you have 45 different parallels, trying to tell the difference between fuchsia and red sometimes, it's okay.
Magenta.
That too.
You couldn't do it if you're colorblind. I think you couldn't do it if you had a lot of eye strain. I think you couldn't do it if you had any kind of manipulative arthritis, which I don't have any of those things. But if I did, I think it would become not fun very quickly if I had back problems or something. And I think
in the last Dallas Court Show was a little bit harder because we had to make sure we got behind the table, because the
right.
They took a lot of the chairs away from the fronts of the tables.
The point of this episode is to point out that even within dollar boxes, there's lanes, and they're minimally overlapping lanes, so that you can be happy for me, I can be happy for you, and we can both be happy for Shane or anybody else.
The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards is doing